Behind me is the Riverfront Towers, and there hasn't been a more iconic residential development in the city of Detroit in the last 30 years. Several famous people have come through the halls of Riverfront Towers, including the late Rosa Parks, and a lot of residents still consider this to be home. Lately, the two residential rental towers have gone into foreclosure with debts totaling a little over $55 million. So Fannie Mae decided to take that over to try to recoup some of their loss, which has caused a lot of consternation for people who live there. A lot of questions about, are we going to be kicked out? Is the building still safe? Will improvements that need to be made be made? So we decided to go ask somebody who works very specifically with properties in foreclosure. So this particular building, was a foreclosure not that long ago. So the bank is running it now. When a bank contracts with a firm like Finn Silver Friedman, what is the typical process?
The typical process is pretty simple it's pretty comparable to somebody selling a property. It's basically like a change of hands. So they basically come in, they bring in their management team. Sometimes they keep the staff in place, sometimes they replace the whole staff. It really depends on what the situation is with the staff. But it's pretty seamless. It actually, a lot of times, will bring better structure to the property.
What are the first things that you're looking for when you're coming in as a property management team?
The first things you're looking for building issues that haven't been maintained. Because a lot of times when you have a property that goes foreclosure, it's not very well maintained. So you're looking to see what are the immediate structural safety concerns, what are the hazards on the property, what are the residents' gripes, where do we have water issues, where do you have sewage issues, where do you have all your issues on the property so you can address those and get them taken care of as quickly as possible. And of course make the tenants comfortable, because 9 times out of 10 the tenants have been ignored for who knows how long, to the point where they're just fed up and you're coming in basically as their savior, kind of helping them out.
It doesn't sound like there's typically any plan to just say, oh, we've got to get rid of all of the residents, they've got to go.
No, there's never a plan just to get rid of them. What's going to happen is when we come in, obviously we're only collecting rent from the time we come in full. The prior stuff we can't really go after. So on the current stuff that we're collecting rent for, what it comes down to is we say, hey, on the first, rent's due. We're going to set out new leases, but on the first, what we have on record, this is what your rent is. You have to pay your rent. If you don't pay it, then we file and put you out. Basically, we file court for lack of payment of rent. If you still didn't pay it, then we do a writ and you'd be evicted. But we're not going to just come in and just say, hey, we don't like any of you guys, you got to go.
So if somebody's in that situation and their building has been foreclosed, they're not necessarily going to have to worry about, we better be packing our bags.
No. Unless you're not paying your rent and you don't plan on paying your rent when the next person comes in. If that rate, then there's a problem, but usually not. The whole goal for the bank taking over is to keep the revenue stream intact to cover the cost, because whoever owns the property is not paying, they're collecting rent, but the bank's just not getting their note off the property, so they figure they put a receiver in place. The receiver then collects the rent through the court system, is mandated by the court, and basically covers all the bills. The taxes are paid, insurance is paid, employees are paid. It doesn't go awry. The maintenance is done. They can actually have the property pay for itself to do all the maintenance and repairs, rather than them still having to be responsible for taxes and everything else, and meanwhile the other guy's still standing there keeping all the money. And usually the bank's pretty good. The bank's usually pretty good because they want to keep, their whole goal is to keep that from going south. I mean, when you have like the towers where you have, I think it's like 50 million.
Yeah, 55 million. Yeah.
If they allow that to sink, the bank literally just lost $55 million. However, if they can go in and salvage it and say, hey, at least put it back together, even if it's a 50% loss, 25 million is a lot less hurtful of a loss opposed to $55 million. Right. So they can at least get some of their money back out of it and then have it cover its costs in the meantime and actually pay for its own repairs.
So what we've learned that, in general terms, probably isn't really anything bad going to happen to the residents of Riverfront Towers, and in fact they might be able to see some big building improvements that had been delayed for quite a while. And let's also keep in mind that it only relates to 2 of the towers of the Riverfront Towers, because one is completely owned by condo owners. So while it might look cloudy for Riverfront Towers right now, it doesn't mean by any stretch that the sun has set on Detroit's residential recovery.